Let me just point out something that I said on this show. Was it O's 50-1? The second place O's 3.5 games back. Just saying.
This sucks because I said O's before the season at 25-1, and now Joe's just going to get all the shine for it, and it's going to suck.
Should have jumped in again.
Speaking of which, speaking of the AL East, Yankees are almost 2-1 to miss the playoffs. They're dead, right? Carlos Rodon had another setback, hasn't pitched this year. Judge is on the IL. They might be dead. In that division?
Who's more dead?
Only because
your
of the
Cardinals
division.
or the Yankees? Who's more dead?
Probably the Yankees because they're more injured, right? Like the Cardinals at least have everybody on the field.
And they're in the Central.
Yeah, that too. That helps.
Oh, I think the Cardinals are more dead because if they're healthy and they're struggling, then where's the optimism? At least the Yankees can kind of come back and make a run. Like maybe.
Well, I think, Joe said, the optimism comes from the division, just because who you're chasing, the Brewers and the Pirates right now, and the Cubs a little bit.
Because the Pirates are not going to win 2 out of every 3 games all season, and
no, they won't.
Yeah,
but I mean, we have seen the Brewers exceed expectations recently, so maybe they are the team there in the division. I do agree you have fewer, teams to jump over if you're the Cardinals, but I mean, once the Yankees sort of have everybody back, then we know what they can do. They'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think they're dead.
Well, if you believe that, it always feels like you're getting value in that division because the Yankees' price is just out of whack. They're sitting there in last place. Yeah, I would not go.
Aaron Boone might be dead.
That guy stinks. Oh,
well,
maybe that's what Boone gets fired mid-season. Then we jump on the Yankees like they get
And you
that
bet
Phillies
on-
magic from last year.
See that
new manager.
Now
boost.
you're looking at secondary and tertiary reactions. This is good. This is good.
So then should
That's
we
my
buy
concern.
low on the Yankees and wait for a good spot to bet
No.
their futures, anticipating that happens?
Once
Not
Boone
yet.
gets fired. The problem is they might hang on to him until August.
Yeah, they're dumb.
Ugh.
Would you guys believe me if I told you LeBron is our biggest liability for Finals MVP? It's everything that has to do with the Finals. The Lakers doing anything is always like the worst result. Obviously, Curry winning is not great. And then Jimmy Butler obviously got a lot of steam off the back of his great series against Milwaukee. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in this series and whatnot. But and then you have like a lot of money coming in on Embiid and Tatum, obviously. But I'd say LeBron and Steph, definitely after some of their performances so far, are the clubhouse leaders.
The reason why I bring this up is the thing that both of these teams have in common, aside from being really successful in the regular season last year, is that if you increase your sample size, so to speak, and you look at last year's data as well as this year's data, I think what you notice is that both of these teams are a good bit better than perhaps what their seeds suggest for this year. That if you add more information and you look at what these stars have been able to do in previous seasons and in key situations, yeah, the Heat have made some changes in terms of supplementary guys, but they look pretty darn good. And Coach Spo is still a defensive mastermind, and he knows just what lineups to put out there on the floor. And it's one of those deals where you go, if you add more information to your analysis, then maybe you get a better idea of what exactly you're working with. And so when it comes to betting on the Heat and betting on the Panthers, don't just look at the playoffs, don't just look at the regular season, but look at last year's numbers as well. And maybe you get a more complete picture in terms of how good both of these teams really are.
I do still have a Conn Smythe ticket available on Jake Ottinger, which I would run and grab that, and that's probably the best way to bet Dallas right now from a future standpoint. And that's something to look at, too. If you're seeing a shorter price on certain teams, like, for example, instead of taking the Toronto Maple Leafs, at a short price to win the Stanley Cup, maybe take a flyer on a Morgan Riley or Ilya Samsonov to win the Conn Smythe, and you'll get better odds. Because for them to win the Cup, they're going to need one or two of those players And then, like I said, I think Riley would be the biggest value because you're going to get a much better price on him than, say, Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner, and he looked good in the first round. So if he can continue that success and Samsonov continues to win games, that's a good way to attack that specifically for Toronto. But for me, I have Dallas to win the West, and then I have a Jason Robertson and a Jake Ottinger, Conn Smythe, which those technically are my two plays for Dallas in winning the Stanley Cup.
We were very close to breaking even this year. It was very nice to see. Pick one was great because Young was so short, and we were taking bets on Stroud to go number one as late as an hour before the first pick before we closed.
What?
So, which was crazy. And I said we want to let the market settle a little bit before we post anything. And then you have to remember this market does not settle. Number
That's
two,
true.
Will Anderson's plus 200 when you wake up on draft day. He goes to minus 350 2 hours before draft, and then they pick Stroud. It's ridiculous. There are a lot of people chasing that Stroud's team, which helped. I mean, Stroud was a loser for us at number 2, but then the rest of picks 3 through 5 that we offered turned out to be great for us. I mean, Jalen Carter slipping out. Tyree Wilson, I don't think he went top 5, right? I think he went 6th.
Mm-mm.
Right, outside top 5, yeah.
Yeah, it
7,
was. I mean, that was
7.
I was preaching for a while. Like, if he goes top 5 anywhere, like that's going to be bad news for us because he was getting all this steam. But I mean, it was wild to see. And then Dalton Kincaid, I think, was like our second worst market to go first tight end. Like I never seen a draft like this, like an event where we've lost money where we've been so happy with it.
You talked about how well the Sixers have played without Embiid this season. I'm looking at his plus-minus numbers. Points per possession offensively, plus 6.2 when he's on the floor. Defensively, minus 4.7. Both of those per cleaning the glass are 85th percentile or better. And so it's not like that Joel Embiid has, sort of flat plus-minus numbers to where you go, all right, well, they have so many other pieces, it doesn't matter. No, it's a significant drop off when he's not on the floor, and yet they still find ways to win. And you sort of scratch your head because there's so many things you can point to that would suggest the opposite, whether it's James Harden or Doc Rivers or whomever. It feels like these should be much bigger numbers, and the Sixers shouldn't be as successful without Joel Embiid. But, the numbers aren't lying here.
And that's the other thing. Can James Harden do it again? Do we trust that could happen?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. No. No.